According to ChatGPT and a recent survey, 45% of Americans report having a side hustle in 2023, and that number is growing as more people explore entrepreneurship. And 57 million Americans freelance either full-time or on the side. 70% of entrepreneurs start their businesses while working a full-time job. And I have a suspicion that you really want to join this group of entrepreneurs and start a side hustle or freelance. But as soon as you start dreaming about what it would be like to start something you're truly passionate about, a little voice inside says things like, but you don't even know anything about running a business. Or how can you risk your steady income for the inconsistent paycheck of owning a business? Or things like, where would you even get a client? Would anybody pay for the idea you have? Or maybe it's, I don't even know what I would do if I started my own business. And you know what? In my book, I called the second voice Fearful Fred. Now, to be fair, these are common concerns I hear from potential clients, so you're not alone having those thoughts. And they do need to be acknowledged. But today, we're going to hush Fearful Fred and help you learn how to step gently into your dream career without the risk. Or at least very minimal risk. So if you're ready to take this journey with me today, let's get inside today's Discovering Your Calling podcast. Welcome to the Discovering Your Calling podcast. I'm your host, Sherry Miter. I'm here to help you unleash your strengths and get clarity on your calling. I believe when you find your purpose in life, fulfillment, joy, and success will follow. If you're ready, pop in those earbuds, hit that follow button, and join me on this journey toward discovering your calling. So again, these are common fears, common concerns I hear all the time. Fear of not having a consistent flow of income or a consistent flow of clients. Worry about the business side of stuff. A lot of my clients have never run a business before. They come from corporate America, and that feels very much outside of their comfort zone. And then there's the anxiety over how the risk of stepping away from a secure, air quotes there, career and into starting their own business or changing careers. How does that impact their family? And that feels like a lot of pressure to succeed on the women I talk to. And I'm going to show you, I've broken it down into a way that you can just gently kind of ease into a new business, because it doesn't have to be, drop this thing, quit this thing. You don't have to put your 2 weeks notice in today and start something new tomorrow. There are ways you can gently step into your ideal true calling. And we're going to break that down, what that can look like, and then cover some of the mindset stuff. And I'm going to leave you with an actual plan at the end of this episode. So there's 3 ways that I look at easing into your calling, really speaking to that woman or that man that you want to try entrepreneurship. You want to give it a try. And again, not necessarily that you're quitting tomorrow and starting something new, but these are ways that you can explore that possibility. So the first thing is what I call the long runway approach. And this is where you're building a business, have that mindset that building a business, I should say, doesn't have to be this all or nothing gamble, because that can feel like a gamble. It's pretty scary. And many entrepreneurs have learned to just test the waters by running a side hustle or trying out ideas while maintaining a stable career. And when you do it this way, it reduces the financial stress and allows you time to just grow the business organically. Now, that was the approach I took, because I gave myself, when I made a decision that I wanted to start something new, that I was ready to step away from my direct sales business, I gave myself 16 months after that decision. I knew that I couldn't just step away from what I had built. I'd been there over 20 years as a leader. And after all, I was driving a free car. I was earning a really nice paycheck that my husband and I relied on. And not to mention that I had a team of over 100 women who looked to me for guidance, and I couldn't just step away from any of that. So I needed to create a long runway to get clarity on what I was going to do, because I really didn't know at that point. And I wanted to get things in order so that I could comfortably step away. And also that took the guilt away from it as well. Or some of it. There was still always a little guilt there, but it gave me that peace of mind. So that 16-month runway. So give yourself a long runway. You don't have to do the 2-week notice, like I said. And maybe you're in a similar place that I was, and your family relies on your steady paycheck. Or maybe you're in a situation that you're only looking at 3 years from retirement, where you can secure a nice retirement check. Don't step away from that. That would be insane. But you don't have to wait 3 years to start creating your calling. It doesn't have to be, again, this either or. It can be the and. And I love that. That was something somebody said to me recently, and I'm really embracing that. Like, oh, that makes so much sense. Because I feel like so many women, and again, guys, think that in order to step into their calling, they have to give up something. And you don't have to give up your current career. You can ease into it. So that's what we call the long runway approach. Now, along with that, and kind of similar, is just thinking of it as simply a side hustle. And, it's okay to treat this like a side hustle until it gains traction. And, not every passion project needs to even turn into a full-time job right away. It may never turn into a full-time job for you. But if you can create something that is your passion project, something that fulfills you, something that gives you joy, it can just make your overall life more exciting. And it's kind of like having a hobby you really love, but you can figure out a way to make income on it. And you know what? That thing may always stay a side hustle. Or there might be a day that you can look and say, you know what? I'm making enough income now from this side hustle that I feel comfortable putting in my 2 weeks notice. But there's no pressure in the here and now if you just approach it as it's just going to be a side hustle. And then there's the really slow approach. And that's just where you take these really super baby steps, the super gradual steps. And, inside the Discovering Your Calling Academy, we create a roadmap to really break down the business building into small, manageable steps. And you can do this by really thinking of the ultra small steps you can take daily or even weekly to build a business. Maybe you only have 1 hour a week to give this, but you start doing little things. Maybe it says one person I talked to once, she bought a book. Like, do you just need to buy a book to start exploring this possibility of whatever it is? It doesn't have to be this, I talk about in the Discovering Your Calling Academy, we talk about having the really wide lens of what something will look like in 5 years, 3 years, or 1 year, and then bringing it down to what does it look like 6 months from now, 3 months from now, and finally down to the little action steps you take today. But maybe you're just going to take one action step a week. And I did talk a little bit about that in last week's episode. If you missed that, go back and listen, and you can hear what I'm talking about right now. But for you, this gradual plan, these gradual steps they might be things like just doing some market research. They might be developing a product you've thought of or a service that you want to create. It might be slowly building a client base, one client at a time. And that's totally okay. And it's just taking these small little baby steps. So again, releasing that pressure to build something big fast. Now, whatever way you choose to start, whether it is this baby gradual steps, the side hustle approach, or just having a long runway approach, whichever way it is, be willing to test, learn, and just adjust as needed, because you want to approach this new venture willing to let it evolve and morph as needed. And I promise you, it is going to evolve and morph as needed. And think of the first 6 months of this as just the testing and trying stage. It's where you're learning on what to do and what not to do. You're figuring out what gives you joy and what exhausts you. You're figuring out what needs to be delegated out and what can you learn to do? And you see what feeds your spirit and gives you energy. And again, what drains you, and you adjust accordingly. And I encourage you to just experiment. Come about this as an experiment with your business ideas in this low risk way of just like you're just testing things out. Maybe it even looks simply the first step is just volunteering your service, doing what you think you might want to do. Or maybe it's you're ready to run a beta group. I love running beta groups. It takes the pressure off to do it. And taking this approach is just going to allow you the space to really learn and grow and make those adjustments without overwhelming pressure to have it perfect. And part of the process of this is just gathering the feedback. It's trying out the ideas and then gathering feedback from your new client, that one person, from mentors, from other trusted people as you keep refining your business. And the cool thing about this approach is you get to course correct early on so you don't make bigger commitments on time and money that end up being the wrong direction. I've made those mistakes, and I don't want you to go down that path too. One more thing along this line too is just remember your strengths matter. So before you do dive into any business idea, it's crucial to ensure that it aligns with your natural talents and strengths. Because when you're using what you're naturally good at, it helps reduce stress and it minimizes the risk associated with business growth. It will also help you increase your chance of success exponentially, and it allows you to find more fulfillment because you're working in the areas that energize you rather than drain you. Because when we work within our natural talents and strengths, we gain energy. And you're not just testing ideas, but you're also refining how to use your unique gifts in a way that provides the most impact and the most joy for you. Now, if one of your worries is about how starting something new is going to impact your family, I encourage you to get them involved right away. Involve them in every decision along the way, or almost every decision. So make sure that you communicate with your family on the process. Communicate with them how much this means to you. And when you can communicate with them and involve them in building this thing, it will take the fear and the risk away from you because they become part of creating it. And remember, everybody wants to know the YITFM. What's in it for them? So what's in it for them? Why should they support this new goal and dream of yours? Is it because the extra money is going to help pay for that dream vacation that you've all been talking about? Is it because this new business idea that you have is just going to make you happier? And we all want a happier mama. Is this because it's going to be an example for them to go start their own business someday? So what's in it for them? Make it tangible. Make it something they can get excited about. I remember in my networking days, direct sales days, and if we had a huge goal I was working on that year, and I knew it was going to take time away from my family, and I would need them to help out in the house so I could go do the work I needed to do, we would have a goal chart. Whether it was we were planning for a vacation or just a little getaway. And every time I went out to hold a party, we would mark down on that goal chart that we were closer to that goal. And they got to feel a part of the dream and a part of the experience. And that's how they would be more willing to help out. You can also just let them set the goals. Have them help you in that. So get them involved from the beginning. The other thing I highly encourage you to do is pray for guidance. Throughout this entire process, I encourage you just to seek guidance in the form of faith and prayer. Ask God for the signs in every decision you have to make. Which way should you go? And be patient because He doesn't. Well, I've yet to see. I'm still waiting for it. I've yet to see the neon sign when you're driving down the road on a billboard saying, Sherry, go do this. I wish it was that simple. We have to be patient, and we have to let him surprise us with how he gives us a sign that, yes, this is the right direction, or oops, nope, you're taking the wrong path here. So ask for guidance and then look for it. Look for how he's trying to guide you. And when you take this approach, it can really help you have clarity and more peace as you consider each step along the way. And I also encourage you just to trust your inner gut. We need to learn to listen to what our body says. And, there's so much noise out there. I talk about this all the time on the podcast. So many voices coming at us to do this, do that, go this way. And we just need to be quiet and trust, say those prayers and trust, look for the signs from God, but also just trust that He's putting the answer in us. The answers are inside of us. We just need to be still enough to listen to our own gut and what feels like the right direction. So as we're kind of wrapping up the podcast here, I want to leave you with a practical, almost risk-free roadmap to success because let's face it, there's always risks in anything we do, especially anything exciting and fun and adventurous and anything outside of our comfort zone. There's going to be a little bit of risk, but we can definitely bring it down so that it's almost risk-free for you. So first thing is set realistic goals. Figure out what does success actually look like for you? What would success look like for you in your first year? Would it be having consistent clients? Would it be having one paying client? Would it be having consistent cash flow? Would it be making your first $100? Would it be just learning the ropes? What does success really look like for you? Not what it looks like to society, to everybody else. What does it look like for you? What would make you feel good a year from now? Set realistic, achievable goals that aren't going to stress you out. And as you do that, have a 1-year focus. Now, I know in the last episode, we talked about that 5-year, 3-year, 1 year. But I feel like when you're in that place of like, oh, I don't know, what does this look like? Sometimes it can be really hard and scary to look 5 or 10 years down the road, even 3 years down the road. So maybe you just want to look 1 year down the road. And I say 1 year because you really need to give this thing 1 year. It takes a year just to figure things out because remember, along the way, you're testing, you're learning, you're tweaking, and you're growing. And they say it takes 90 days to even see the beginning of any results. So be patient as your journey unfolds. I also highly, highly, highly encourage you to set small milestones and celebrate each along your journey. And then trust that the clarity is going to come as you take action and that you have faith and that you're willing to learn along the way. Also, trust in your God-given talents. Remember, God has given you strengths for a reason. He's already equipped you to do this thing. I truly believe if God puts an idea in our heart and our soul and our brain, He has equipped us with what we need. We just need to tap into them, tap into those talents, tap into those strengths, tap into Him and trust that He has a plan for you. And also, when you're building a business around your natural strengths, you can create something meaningful and sustainable because, again, it's going to energize you. Also, when you use your God-given talents, it will help reduce the fear of failure because you're working within your natural abilities. You shouldn't constantly be feeling like you are way, 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 way outside your capabilities. If that's what it feels like, you definitely want to pause and take a recheck of your strengths and what's happening. So what next? Hopefully we have hushed fearful Fred by all these tips. So what do you do now? What's your next step? First of all, I encourage you, just make a decision. Take the first step and get in motion. That's the most important thing. And if you need help, then reach out and let's see if maybe it's the right time for us to work together and see what capacity that looks like. There's several different ways I work with my clients right now. Maybe you just need a strengths and clarity session, and you'll be good to go. And also, don't forget to make sure you follow or like or subscribe or whatever it is now and tune into the Discovering Your Calling podcast because something exciting is coming that will definitely help you on this journey. So don't miss an episode. And I will see you back here, my friend, next week for another great episode of the Discovering Your Calling podcast. And as always, I appreciate you for being here. And if you have any questions, you want clarification on anything, there is a way now you can text me directly in the show notes to reach out there or find me over on Facebook or LinkedIn. All right, my friends, I'll catch you next week. Thank you for spending this time with me. My hope is something you heard today inspires you to take action toward discovering your calling. I just have two favors to ask of you before you go. One, if you found value and enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and you might hear your review read on a future episode. And two, can you share this episode with 3 friends who will also enjoy it as much as you did? By doing these things, you will help us grow the podcast to make a bigger impact on the world. And until next week, remember, you've been created to live a life of fulfillment, freedom, purpose, success, and joy.